If you want to participate, contact me at ordinarywomenpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure you have great projects to brag about. You can also follow me and message me on Instagram at Ordinary Women Podcast, on Twitter at Ordinary Women PC, or on Facebook on the page Ordinary Women. This episode contains mentions of children marriage and police brutality. If you're sensitive to these subjects, consider skipping the podcast. I also had not realized how much you could hear the fireworks as I recorded this on Guy Fawkes night. Sorry for the inconvenience. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Ordinary Women. I'm welcoming Maryam today for a quite special episode because Maryam is Iranian and wants to speak for Iranian women today. So thank you so much, Maryam, for being here today. Can you start by giving us a quick introduction of yourself, please?
Hi, and first of all, thank you for giving me this platform. My name is Maryam. I'm from Iran, but I left Iran 10 years ago. I lived in Malaysia for, I guess, almost 3 years, and then 2015, I moved to Germany, and since then I've been living in Berlin. I studied software engineering back in Iran, and I was working as a backend developer. And the past 4 years, I moved to the engineering manager role. And I always advocated for women's rights, equality, and empowerment. But since September 16th, the events happening in Iran led me towards taking an active role as a kind of like a political role. A group of other Iranians in exile and I organized a 24/7 sitting strike in front of the Green Party building in Berlin since October 9th, and it's still ongoing. So this is the fourth week that we are there, and we kind of like started this sit-in because we want to receive a response from Annalena Baerbock, the foreign minister and member of the Green Party. She has the feminist agenda, so we want to receive a response to our request, which is to deport the Islamic regime of Iran's ambassador and stop dealing with the Islamic government of Iran. And yeah, so it's just like I've been an engineering manager, be doing something totally different, but now I feel that okay, I have a responsibility towards my people in Iran.
So impressive. Do you feel that German people are also responsive, or anyone living in Berlin? People living in Berlin, do they also respond, come with you?
We received a lot of support from different groups, and we, at least for our sitting, we received some support from the news agency to come and create reports about what we are doing there. But to be honest, it was not as much as we expected. We kind of feels that we needed to a bigger wave. That's true that these days, every day when you open any news channel, you're gonna hear about Iran and what is happening recently. But what we expect is to challenge the politicians. It's not we receive a lot of supports in word, but there isn't that much of action yet.
Right. And have you heard anything yet back from politicians and people like maybe higher politicians you're trying to get attention from?
Yeah, we had on the first week that we had our sitting in front of the Green Party, the first 2 days we didn't get any kind of like attention from them. On the third day, that Omid Nouripur and I have to check the name. The other lady from that they are co-leading the Green Party. They came to talk with us, and they just like said exactly the stop. They support this movement. They are with women in Iran, and they just like again supporting in words. On the third day, they brought us coffee and cookie. That was just like, okay, this is not what we are for here. And yeah, they, as I've mentioned, they are telling that, yeah, we are supporting, we want to put sanction on Iranians, uh, folks, or the ones that taking doing the harms to the people, like the IRGC or Basij. But we, as an Iranian, knows that doesn't have that much of effect. This is something that it, you know, for example, if you have a kid and then you want to do some punishment to just like tell, okay, for example, you're grounded and then you cannot do this. The sanction is like that. But the what we are believing that the government, the Islamic regime of Iran, is not a, a government that can change and move towards the best version of itself. What we are demanding, on what our people are demanding, is the totally changing this government. You know, we don't want this dictatorship anymore, and we don't see the actions that happening from the politicians is a kind of like aligned with that request that coming from Iran.
Yeah, that's so tough. And do you know like how it is internationally? Like, do every country kind of have the same answer? Is anyone doing kind of the same thing?
Uh, I think, for example, in Canada, they put hard, kind of like tougher sanctions for specific people because, as we Iranian believes that the Canada was the heaven for the peoples of the Islamic regime because they took the money there. You know, majority of them have financial accounts there. They have house. They have citizenship there, and their childrens are living there. You know, and enjoying the freedom and all the things that the young generation in Iran are prohibited from. So their own children living in a free world and enjoying their life. So yeah, every country have their own agenda. What we, as an Iranian living in Germany, what we expect, because Germany has a kind of like a vital role in the European Union. So we believe if they do a harsher action, they can kind of lead the other European countries to follow. I've just like read in the news that Switzerland won't follow, even won't follow the sanction that the other countries want to do, and it was really sad to see that because why not? So now we are pretty sure that they're taking the money the Islamic regime after Iran, the official will transfer the monies to the banks in the Switzerland, and if there is no sanction applying there, so this money will be taken out of the people's hand. So that is sad, to be honest, to see this.
Yeah, and it's always so devastating to see that even when it's human rights and people, the like
Exactly.
economical aspects will come stronger for some countries, it's always so devastating.
It is. It is.
Yeah, thank you very much for filling in the gaps of my absence of knowledge.
No worries.
And coming maybe a bit more on to you, was there an event or a moment in your life when you realized that you are a woman?
Growing up in Iran, this is not very kind of like difficult to understand, and you realize that okay, you are a woman. You will realize it at a very early age, because as a girl, you have to wear hijab and cover your hair since you are going to preschool at age 6. So this is maybe the first point you are releasing, you are kind of like understanding the difference. And it is so sad that you will get objectified from that early age. For me, maybe another memory that when I remembering it, it doesn't bring any joy, is a religious celebration for girls that happen in at age of 9. In Farsi, we call it Jashn Taklif, and I don't know, maybe the English word for it would be Fest of Duty. This is a religious ceremony designed to instill Islamic beliefs and values in girls. When they reach at the age of 9, it means that, okay, now you are prepared to follow all these Sharia law. You have to wear, for the ceremony, you have to wear a white chador. It is that kind of like from the top of your head till covering your legs as well. And then they are celebrating you as you reach the age that you can get married soon and start a family. Because the official marriage age for girls in Iran is 13, but we have marriages that get officiated by the government even for younger girls. And for many of these underage marriage in Iran, the bride doesn't have the menstruation cycle yet, and still these will get officiated, and it's such a horrible event. So that's the reason that this memory doesn't bring any joy for me, because it's kind of like the beginning of the your official imprisonment, something like that.
Yeah. Is it still the case today that young women get married at that age? Is it still a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
them?
yes. I think I'm not sure. I have to check the exact date, but I remember that we wanted to some of the representative in the parliament try to change the law and change this marriage age for girl to be 15, and it didn't pass. So yeah, we have some cases that the girl is 12 years old, 10 years old, and it get forced to be married. Of course, this is not happening in the big cities, but you know, Iran is a big country, and we have over 80 million population. And if the law allow it, you know, how does it end?
Yeah, and there a lot of people to protest against it in these big cities?
Yes, we in the at least in the big cities, you know, the families, they are avoiding it, but the concern is for those places that the women doesn't have that much voice, and you know, it's just like the whole government is supporting men more than women. So when you don't have a law that kind of like support you and you are voiceless, and this doesn't end in any good way. So that's the problem.
Yeah, completely. It's so, yeah, scary and yeah. And did you grow up with any female role model?
When I'm looking back, unfortunately, I cannot remember any female role models that was presented to us during our education time or in the TV programs. The only one that I can remember vividly is the religious figure, daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, and how a good daughter, wife, and mom she was. So it was not like that they promoting education for women or encourage them to continue their education to be independent. It's always was like that. Okay, as a woman, you the only and most fulfilling task for you is to get married, bear a child, raise them, and be serving your family, you know, be a good wife and a good mom. So, as I did not get it from the school, neither from the TV shows, and I was looking up to my mom. My mom got married at age 16. So exactly, you know, it's just like not very, it's kind of like underage child marriage, but she continued her education while she had me and my sister. And after finishing her bachelor's degree, she started working as a teacher. So she was a good role model for me. Even, you know, 20 years after her education, she decided, okay, I want to continue and get my master's degree. And she did it. So, yeah, I was lucky that I had her. But let me just like clear that even though they didn't present us with the female role models during our education, we have so many successful women in different areas. For example, Furugh Farrokhzad, it's a very famous and influential Iranian poet and film director. And Maryam Mirzakhani, she unfortunately she passed away, but she was very great mathematician, and she was honored with the Fields Medal. Anousheh Ansari, she is the first female space tourist, and Simin Behbahani, the Iranian poet, Iran Darudi, very famous painter, surrealist painter, and this list goes on. So the problem was like that. We had them, but it was not like that. They showing us to them so we can look up to them and follow their path, because this was not their agenda.
So when did you learn about them?
I think for me, mostly it was just like not during the elementary school. So when I was 17, 18, when I went to university and studied more, and kind of like have access to the internet and looking up them. So that was the moment
Right.
to have more knowledge about it.
And so, as your mom also went to university, did she also learn about them during uni? Would she tell you about them, or did you not speak about them at all at home?
Mm, I think my mom was just like introduced me with introducing to different female writers like Simin Daneshvar, because my mom was just like in very fan of reading. So I've got introduced to many writers, but yeah, I guess no, she also what it was not very in her radar to have in mind to just like introduce more successful females to me. So yeah.
And how did that impact you, that lack of representation of women?
I think I was lucky that at least I had my mom that, you know, she was showing me that, okay, it doesn't matter in which situation you are, you always can proceed towards your goals and dreams. So it was good that I had her. And so I kind of feel that it didn't. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I would be a total different person if I knew about these peoples beforehand. Because from the beginning of my childhood, I always wanted to be teacher because I was looking up to my mom. I was like, yeah, I also want to be a teacher, and yeah, maybe I would be in a different position, but. I know it's just like at least I feel that it was good that I had my mom that continued her education and I could look up to her and proceed towards that path. And she was very supportive. My dad also was very supportive towards that. I remember that the day that he got me a computer, it said, okay, it's good because now it seems like a fancy thing, go on this direction. Because when I wanted to go to the university, I was had a chance to go towards the physics path because I kind of like accepted on that field in the university as well, and the computer science, the software engineer, and my dad was just like very eager. No, it seems like this one looks better and it's more looks more fun. Maybe you want to go in this direction. And he got me a computer, even though it was very expensive. And so yeah, I think I was lucky.
Yeah, was he also encouraging you to go to uni? Yeah.
Exactly.
And what do your role models teach you, or all these women that you mentioned, and also your mom?
Uh, to be strong, you know, it's just like and resist. And I think this is the first thing that maybe majority of the women learn during their lifetime, that sometimes you need to try even harder than men to earn some things, but we are all fight. We have all of us, I guess, majority of the women have a fighter within themselves, and this is something that we see and we resist, and we are strong. This is something that I've learned from many of women around me. And these days, when I'm looking at the young generation that are going to the street, I kind of like I admire them, to be honest, because they are very informed, they are very wise. Just have the access to the information through the internet significantly impacts how they see the world around them, and their courage. It's really it's something that I kind of like I'm involved, because they these days they are going into streets and fighting for their basic rights, and with bare hands against the bullets, because the government is brutally cracking down the protesters, and it is so nice. And I don't know how to say, but every time it's just like a bittersweet, because they should not be in the streets to fighting this fight, but also it's admirable that they are going to streets and fight for their rights, for the equality and freedom. So they are very strong, and I admire them. I'm kind of like looking up to them to be more stronger and more brave.
Yeah, it was. I remember especially the first days of the current protests. It was so powerful to see all these women together. It was, yeah, incredibly powerful. Um, yeah, so and like usually we kind of focus on like a project or something that the guest has done, but obviously today we're going to focus more on like what's currently happening in Iran, and especially after Mahsa Amini has been killed. So yeah, do you want to give us a bit of like a background on the current regime and like what's happening for women at the moment?
Exactly. So I think one thing that we have to understand about the Islamic regimes of Iran is that this regime is a gender apartheid regime. So since 1979, after the first revolution in Iran, then it is since the Islamic regime of its own power, they treated women and girls as a second-class citizens in Iran. So if you are a woman, there are so many rules for you. There are so many limitations for you. You can't go. It's some of them is so basic, and I think that you cannot imagine. Some of these are very basic rights that you sometimes when I'm just like repeating it for myself, it sounds very stupid. That how is it possible to get these rights from half of the population? For example, as a woman, you cannot cycle in the public. You cannot ride a motorcycle. You are not allowed to sing and dance. If you want to be a singer as a woman, you cannot go on that path because it's not allowed. As a woman, you always have to have a man next to you to sing with you because it's not allowed sounds of a voice of women be heard. It's so, and you cannot go to football stadium. Some of these rules, it doesn't make sense at all, and it's just like you have to cover your hair, wear loose clothing, and fully cover your arms and legs. You're not allowed to request a divorce. And if you divorce, the custody of your child directly go to the man, so you don't have any rights towards your children. And if you're married and you want to continue your education, you need your man's permission. And if your husband doesn't allow that, you won't be able to continue your education. If you want to travel, you need your man's permission. So if your man doesn't allow you to have a passport, you can't have a passport to travel outside of Iran. Even inside of Iran, if your man doesn't allow and you do it, he can go to the court and just like create a file against you. And these are all your even your life has half the worth of man's value. Your testimony has have half the man's testimony. So for a specific case, if you want to go to the court, there is a one man that's against two women, so you have to have two women to say the same thing to be acceptable by the by the court. If you die in an accident because your life has half the worth of men's, the insurance gonna pay half of the money to your family. And in Iran, unfortunately, we have this death penalty. So just imagine this case. If you been murdered by a man as a woman, if you've been killed by a man, and if your family wants a death penalty, they have to pay the family of the guy half of the price of his life, and then the guy will be executed. So when I'm saying that this is a gender apartheid regime, I like you to understand and don't mix it with only this is the hijab issue or this is their culture. No, this is a gender apartheid regime.
I didn't know it was that that much. I'm assuming it's useless to ask about transgender people.
Oh, that's so they don't it's not allowed. It's
Yeah.
not allowed to be a gay or lesbian. So if you are a transgender, you have to go through the transition. If not, they won't allow you to be a transgender. So, okay, if you're saying that I'm in a wrong body, I have a wrong identity, you have to go through this transition, and they won't allow you to have your identity by yourself. If you're a lesbian or gay, that's not acceptable at all, and this is a death penalty for it. So it's just like all the minority groups have problem in Iran. So even we have people with the different religions like Baha'i, so they will also be arrested, and some of them are then executed, and they don't have any rights. I was born as a Muslim because it comes from blood. So because my dad, his dad, and the generation was Muslim, the moment that I opened my eyes in the world, I was Muslim. And I cannot change it. If I want to change my religious, I will be executed because I will be mushrik. It's not, you cannot change your religious. It's not allowed. So I'm an atheist. If I go back in Iran and I claim that I'm an atheist, I will be executed if they know that I'm publicly say it and promoting it. So these are all the things that I think I still don't believe. How is it possible that the a regime with this much of oppression will be having all these political relationship with the world for 43 years? And to speak during all these, the past 40, I think it's now maybe 50 days, while women in Iran were just like fighting for their basic human rights. Iran had a seat in the Women's Right Council in the UN. That was just like mind blowing for me. It's just like, why?
Yeah, like, is it just all of it? Like, does it even mean anything at this point? It's
It's just,
outrageous.
yeah, these are sometimes I'm kind of like feels that, okay, why we have UN if it's just like such a useless organization and they cannot act on anything? Why do we have it at all?
Yeah, it's such a tricky one. Like, it sounds very beautiful, but in reality, because as you just said, yeah, they can't actually force countries. It's yeah. And so yeah, we mentioned a bit Mahsa Amini. Do you want to tell us a bit more about who she was? What happened?
Yeah, sure. So Mahsa Amini was a Kurdish Iranian girl. She was 22 years old when she passed away in hospital in Tehran. She slipped into coma after she was brutally beaten up by the morality police while she was in their custody. So she's from Sakaz. Sakaz is a small town in west part of Iran. So she was traveling to Tehran and she was detained by morality police. She was not even unveiled. She had hijab, but according to these morality police or hijab police, we call them gashter shot, her hijab was not according to the hijab laws, or it was not proper. And I don't know if you've seen the videos that these morality police detains women. They are they're using all their forces against women, and they're using batons. They don't care if when they're pushing them into the van, they're hitting their head into the doors, and it's just like they it's all against human rights. So they kind of like brutally beaten up her by buttons, and then when they forced her to the van, it seems like that there were some beaten up happening inside the van as well. So she slipped into the coma, and after I guess 1 or 2 days in coma, she passed away in hospitals. So it's so sad that you see a human loses her life for just part of her hair showing up. This is not a reason that a life has to be taken out. You know, she was so young. She was only 22 years old. She had her whole life ahead her, and it's taken from her. And so during her funeral, the I think it's just like everything is so now symbolic in it's just like because on her gravestone, one of her family member written that Gina, John, you're not dead. Your name will be a symbol. It's gonna be kind of like it's just like for us, it's like that. Yes, it's now symbol of freedom, symbol of all these revolutionary acts that happening. And after that, it was just like these Jin Jian Azadi, these chanting slogans for. It's coming from the Kurdish background, and it means women life freedom. So it's kind of like it started these whole protests. So after her death, kind of like her death sparked a series of protests and movements. The pain of her death was so much that some women, because this is in our culture, you know, that when someone's dying, that they're cutting their hair in to mourn her death. So women started cutting their hair for her, and then Iranian women, and I'm not sure that if you've seen the videos, it's kind of like supported by many other women and men around the globe to show their solidarity with Iranians, women, and young generation went to the street. The girls started burning their hijabs and dancing and chanting this Jinjian Azadi or Zan Zendegi Azadi, which means women life freedom. And since then, the protests have been ongoing, led by women, supported by men, shoulder by shoulder. Every day in the streets, we see a new group of protests chanting Zan Zendegi Azadi and death to Khamenei, which is the supreme leader of Iran, death to dictator, and they really want demanding a regime change. And the young generation has active role in leading these protests, even though the Islamic regime uses its maximum force to brutally cracks down on the protesters, but it doesn't scare the people and it doesn't stop them from coming to the street and fighting for their rights. You know, we see among the protesters that have been killed by the Islamic regime of Iran, the ages are 16, 15, 17, and it's just like breaking my heart every day to see those because they had the whole life ahead of them, and they shouldn't be dead because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking and absolutely outrageous. The silence from every other country. It's yeah, thank you so much for saying that because I know it's also not easy. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
I think it would be a good time to kind of call everyone to action. So what can we do?
I think as an international people, maybe the easiest action that you can do is to be voice of the Iranian people and amplify their voice. Write down to your representatives, demand them to stop the deals with the Islamic regime of Iran. You know, call them, ask them to deport the Iranian ambassadors from your country, stop the political relationship with Iran, doesn't ask them to not continue the nuclear deal with Iran. Just like imagine a country that brutally kill its own people. How would it behave when they have access to the nuclear? So demand your representative and ask them to stop any kind of deal with Iran. Ask your female leaders and journalists to not wear hijab when they are going to Iran or when they doing the reports from with the Iranians official. I think it was the beginning of these protests that I've seen one of the American journalists that because she wanted to get an interview with Raisi, the current president of Islamic regime of Iran, she had hijab in America, in US soil. And that was so shocking. And for me to see that, okay, we are dying because of this hijab, and I don't know, what do you think to wear this in your free country and let them to force you to what to wear? And just, I think 2 days ago, I see a group of female leaders that was in Iran, or I don't know what kind of the event was, and all of them has hijab, and that's just like it's so frustrating to see that. So what I suggest is just like, if you see that you have a female leaders wearing hijab and tell that this is their culture, no, this is not our culture. Be on our side, not on their side. And since the protests started in Iran, the Iranians in exile organized so many demonstrations all around the globe. Join them, show them your support, and amplify the Iranians' voice. There are so many collectives that started doing activities to support Iranian. You can, of course, help them financially. And it is less than 2 months since the revolutionary protests, but till now, the Islamic regime of Iran killed more than 40 underage children. So this is so. Don't look at it as a number. These are peoples. These were our future generation, and with every that person, this is a whole family behind them that is destroyed. So help us to keep the human rights organization taking actions. And yeah, these are some things that I think I can think of it. And yeah, but the most important thing is just like demand from your representative in your parliament, ask them to support us.
Thank you so much. I'll put in the resources of the podcast like some links to petitions, or like find some templates for everyone to send. Please do it. It is important. Thank you so much for your time and speaking about it. I know it's not an easy conversation, so thank you so much. Is there anything that we have not mentioned, we haven't talked during the podcast, that you want to say now?
Thank you so much for giving me this platform to talk what it is like to be a woman in Iran, growing up in Iran. I like to end my talk with a quote from Tahir Qurratul Ain, who became the first martyr in Iran after appearing unveiled in public in 1852. You can kill me as soon as you like, but you can't stop the emancipation of women.